Hello, eavesdroppers. Welcome back to another pop culture tarot reading. I hope you all are feeling like $1,000,000. All right, y'all. On today's episode, we're going to look into Jayvon in relation to the Nolan Wells case. Someone asked for this reading. One of the subbies asked for this reading. I actually did touch on Jayvon in another reading, the last Nolan reading that I did, but I wanted to give him a dedicated reading because someone asked for it, and I said that I would. So let's just ask some quick questions. This won't be very long. Everything I said in this reading is alleged and for entertainment purposes only. I have no proof, so take it with a grain of salt. But let's see here. Let me get the deck. I do not believe Jayvon is involved at all. Let me just say that. I do not believe that. Do I believe he knows something? Yes, I do. Do I believe he's afraid to say what he knows? Yes, I do. And can we blame him when we look at what happened to Nolan and how it's being covered up? So I do feel like when his mother nudged him on that interview, I believe that was just to protect her child. It's possible that there could be allegedly money that exchanged hands to keep them quiet, but it could also be threats. So I just want to see what he's privy to. Again, I definitely do not believe he's involved. It's interesting. I even saw someone on TikTok post about them, framing him for the unaliving, and he commented and he said, "Trust me, I have enough proof to show that I was not involved at all in this." And, it's interesting. I pay attention to context. I pay attention to the nonverbals. I pay attention to the cues I get from what people say and what they didn't say. And I feel like what he said was basically admitting that something happened, but I wasn't a part of it. So that means to me that he probably knows. But let's see, what is Jayvon? Jayvon, what is your involvement? I don't think you're involved, but when it comes to what you know, how much do you know? What do you know? What do you know? Okay, strange fruit. Strange fruit. He's showing me a public hanging. So he knows something possibly about a hanging. Wow. This could be why the throat is missing. Wow. This could be why there's an injury to the back of the head. As I have learned over the last few weeks, that actually can cause bruising in the occipital region of the brain, the head, the skull. Wow. Show me more. What else do you know? What else do you know allegedly? What else do you know? What else do you know? He said healthy organs and body parts. Do you know something about organ trafficking? Harvesting? Show me more. What else do you know? He says unsolved. I feel like he's saying that this is not going to be solved. Why? Why do you know that? Why do you feel that? He says it's under investigation, but it will remain unsolved. Wow. How much do you know about what happened to Nolan? How much do you know? He said an ultimatum, my way or the highway. What does that mean? Someone gave him an ultimatum. He said human trafficking ring. Wow. Wow. I was going to say, could that, in that town, in that state, in that city, I wonder if there's a high incidence of this. I wonder when people are found hanging or unalived. I wonder if their organs are intact. I wonder if they have a history of that. I talked to you all about in Nolan's previous readings that I kept getting something about sex tourism. I don't know if they were trying to do something with him, talk him into something, get him to participate in something, but I feel like Nolan was privy to something. This is why I feel like he pulled out his phone and started recording. And this is why I think his Snapchat was deleted. The videos or whatever he could have snapped. I think that's why it was deleted. I feel like he recorded what happened to him in his final moments. I strongly feel that way. And when people keep saying, well, how would they have gotten into his phone? Well, if he had his phone in his hand while the attack allegedly was happening, they could easily take the phone out of his hand and have access right there. And people also use their fingertips, their eyeballs, all kind of stuff. And if they still had access to the body, which I personally believe Nolan passed at night. I believe it was at a party. I believe that the body was taken back to the water the following day. That's my belief. I believe he died the night of the 4th. I believe the 5th was, working out the kinks all that night. Remember, I said he spent some time in an attic or basement. And I feel like after that, the body was taken back to the water. But what else are you aware of? Intimacy. I keep telling y'all there's something going on with these boys. Allegedly. There's some is falling right beside ultimatum, my way or the highway, intimacy. There's something weird going on where there's always sexual innuendos in these readings. What is this about? I feel like Nolan either did participate in something and decided he didn't want to do it anymore, or like I told you all in one of the last readings, could have been someone else made an advance towards him thinking, well, you did it with such and such, so why not me? And I feel like he wasn't interested in someone and he rejected them. He rejected an offer. But let's see what this is. We have panic. Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning. I'll be reading for Nolan. There was an image in one of the cards that showed 2 young boys in a classroom together, showing me their classmates, their peers. One boy had this lovey-dovey look in his eye with hearts floating all around looking at the other boy, and the other boy was sweating bullets and looking terrified. That was a message to me that there's somebody that could have made an advance towards him, and I feel like it was a peer, another boy. And I feel like Nolan said no. And I feel like Jayvon is aware of this. Now, Nolan could have told him, or he could have found out through the grapevine. We have a racial double standard, a bias, and hypocrisy is what Jayvon is pointing out. He says powerful enemies. This is the same thing Nolan told us. We have payback. So he's afraid of payback. And he says reckless. He knows that if he jumps out there and tells what he knows, there will be payback because these are powerful enemies. He says there's overwhelming evidence and undeniable proof. However, this is David and Goliath. This is the small person versus the big mighty group. He says there's a maybe here. He says there are character witnesses. Okay, it's something about screams, so Nolan was screaming. He's also showing me here drug use, abuse, or ODing. We have DMs and messages. There's a statement being made about whomever the driver was. We keep talking about this driver. He said there's a secret phone. Okay, what else do you know? Fingerprints. We have no stone left unturned, which we talked about in one of Nolan's last readings. And we have pornographic images and drama. And we have the beach. Wow. He said there's a second suspect. So there's a ringleader, but there's a second person, like I told you all. There's 3 people I feel like are mainly involved. We have shady individuals here. Okay, so what about the shady individuals? They were rejected. There was a rejection. Yes. He says they're giving fraudulent information, but they are digital footprints. They are being tracked. There's a paper trail that tells the tale, and check the data receipts. He says blonde hair, someone with blonde hair. He said there was a secret meeting or multiple meetings that took place. And he said the detectives are doing shoddy work. He said a defamation lawsuit is coming. I don't know who that's from. He said there was one-sided loyalty, so Nolan was just giving his loyalty, was not getting any in return. He said something happened in the heat of the moment. Let's move on to another deck here. Jayvon, what do you want to say about that day? Everything you know about that day. Let's start with this. Why did your mother nudge you? Why did your mother nudge you on that interview where people thought it was suspect? He says the case takes a frustrating turn. Okay, show me more. He said begging and pleading and calls for help. He's talking about the freezer, preservation of the body at the morgue. What about it? It's the information that he knows. He just doesn't want to find himself, and she doesn't want to find her child in the same situation. What about the preservation of the body? They're saying that they could have left it out for rigor mortis to set in, and the body starts to decompose and becomes difficult to identify bruises on the body. I believe they did that as well. We have the court of public opinion, community backlash to people's reaction. So they thought they were going to sweep this under the rug. So they thought they were going to sweep this under the rug, and they were going to get away with it because they were covering their tracks allegedly. So the medical examiner must have some explaining to do here. But because people keep pushing back against the narrative and finding more clues, it's getting frustrating. He doesn't want to complicate the matter. He wants justice for his friend, but he also wants to live. He doesn't want to get himself in a situation where he makes these people his enemies. So do you know who unalive Nolan? He said, as somebody with ties to the industry. Now, what industry is that? As we do know, there are certain people who are supposedly going into the NFL. He said this was an isolated incident. He says it's the person that's talking about defamation of character. So who is that? We all know who that is. Okay, so there's something here about him pointing out that person that's trying to say everyone is defaming their character, and they have ties to the industry. Allegedly. Is it the other football player? Are you saying it's the other football player? Is this what you're saying? Are you saying this the... He said, yes, blood on their hands. Wow. End of your rope. And that just makes me think of a hanging. He says alone. Accidental. So I do feel like he's saying that there wasn't malice until the incident happened. Until after the fact. This wasn't necessarily premeditated. This is probably due to being under the influence. This is probably due to some violent act. And something happened, and everybody else just had to cover it up because of the threats, maybe even to them. Maybe even some of the white kids. Are the other kids involved? Because it looks like he's telling me yes, that he says alone. So it looks like he's saying he did it by himself. Okay. Are the other kids involved? He says the mask has slipped, uncovered a harsh truth. Well, what about it? Strong. Haunted. He says they're being haunted. Okay. And they are carrying dead weight. Says coercion as well. I don't feel like these other children were involved beforehand. I think that's why their reactions were so visceral. I think that's why they were screaming and saying, basically like, what have you done? Because that wasn't the plan. Do I believe they were all involved in fighting, scuffling? I do. Was the fights that nobody can seem to remember who the fights were with? Were they with Nolan? Do you know about that? He says a burner phone and untraceable phone. So something about another phone is showing up here. He says someone is older. He said it's a massive cover-up, major corruption in high places with older people. There's another phone someone needs to get their hand on. They may not find anything on Nolan's phone or these other people's Snapchats and social media. I know they sent a subpoena for those things. They may not find anything. They may not be looking at the right phones, the right accounts. So he said found out. So he did find out allegedly about other fights that happened, or he was privy to them firsthand. A firsthand account that Nolan was actually the one that was fighting with these boys. When someone is saying, oh, my brother was in a fight, but I don't know who he was fighting. Weirdest thing you've ever heard. Oh, I was in a fight, but I don't know the guy. I'm familiar with him, but I don't know the guy. It's like, okay. Anything else you want to say about... Wow, see, mouse closed. So he said, I'm going to keep quiet about this because I have to protect myself. He said this is a high-profile case or assailant. He says the lapdog, the flunky, the do-boy, or the do-girl. There are a lot of people covering up for this high-profile assailant. The luggage in the suitcase shows up again, which gives me somebody running away. Somebody has hid something in a suitcase. We get the suitcase. This is the third time we've gotten a suitcase. And these are different decks of cards. In this suitcase, this luggage keeps coming out. Show me more. He said there's a legal loophole, the death penalty, and something ingested. So there was something that Nolan ingested that led to his demise. Was it done of his own volition, or did they give it to him? Allegedly. He said he was cast out, energy vampire, blackmail, court date, in an open and shut case. He said if they do this the right way, put this through the judicial process, they would find this is an open and shut case. There's so much evidence. There's overwhelming evidence to suggest that these kids had something to do with it, allegedly. He said he passed out due to something he ingested. I do not believe that he took it on his own. Did they give him something to drink? Did they give him something in an IV? Did the, post-mortem, did they give him something to make it look like he was on drugs? He said Nolan felt uncomfortable. And I told you, he felt uncomfortable the night before. He just didn't listen to his instinct. He's at the time of death. So this is what they need to check. I have my personal opinion. I don't even know if I want to share it. I think I'm going to share it. I do not believe that Nolan is buried. Okay? This came over me a few days ago. The casket was closed, I believe, because Nolan wasn't in it. I think they're waiting to do a second independent autopsy, and I believe that they are preserving the body. I don't know what measures they have to do it, but obviously they would know how to do it. I think the body is being preserved. And I say that I know I've had death in my family where the person wasn't able to be buried for a really long time due to a snowstorm. And so the body was preserved for weeks and weeks. So I do believe that his body is being preserved for a second independent autopsy because they're going to have to do one. If they get the neck, if they get the body, the organs that they do not have, they have to DNA test those to prove that they are really Nolan's, because I don't think they will be. I think those organs are either sold or they're damaged. I believe they're more damaged than anything. When Nolan knew something the night before, it was nagging at him. And he was on that beach trying to figure out how to get away from them. He didn't like how belligerent they were acting. Okay. We have a romance scammer, emotional manipulation, and a smooth talker. We have bruises and scars. So there's something telling on the body here. Anything else we need to know? He said a close relative of the prime suspect is involved. We have the rabbit hole goes deep. High-ranking officials are involved. My goodness. My goodness. Self-sabotage. Suppressing evidence and legal issues. Yeah, so they're doing a lot of hiding, suppressing information. We have prosecutorial misconduct, so that could be the DA. Intent to harm, premeditation, and a calculated plan. So listen, while I do still say that there was no premeditation on everyone's part, some people were aware that this was going to happen. Even if it was just to be mean and cruel to him, it may not have been to take his life. Yeah, frenemies is at the bottom of the deck. Confirmation. They were in his blind spot. We have plausible deniability. We have an alibi. So they're covering each other. Says he was collateral damage, unintended harm. What I just said, innocent bystanders, incidental damage, accidental injury, civilian casualties, repercussions. Okay. There's a button or a small accessory or article of clothing that was left behind. We have the USA, America, KKKA. We have an influencer here. Like I said, Nolan's mother is an influencer. We have unwanted attention, fixation, and infatuation, trouble breathing, suffocation, and asphyxiation. We have a mysterious woman who's involved. Says he was an easy target, a sitting duck. They were on vacation. We have a conviction here, but what's with the conviction? Something about the home. They gotta get search warrants. They gotta search these people's properties, their boats, all of these things. It says get additional information. You're not getting the full story. There's a gun that was involved. Someone with long hair. We have a predator. Predatory behavior. Says Nolan was naive and the fix was in. It was sabotage. Wrongful death. We have courtroom drama, behind the scenes mess, and judicial misconduct again. We have oops, big mistake made, fighting back, so he was fighting back. There's some sociopathy here, a thrill kill, bloodlust, psychopath, sociopath that was emboldened, encouraged, inspired, and hardened. So as they keep getting away with this, they're getting more emboldened. This is why they're making mistakes, because they don't care. They know that there's not going to be anything that happens. We have a witness for the defense, which is not good. So, Jayvon, are you the witness for the defense? Are you going to sell your brother out? What are we doing here? We have effed, dismissive, nonchalant. The story is unraveling and falling apart. And we have chow corn. Put the P in front of it instead of the C. Chow corn. Wow. Is there anything else we need to know? Does your mother know anything? Does your mother know anything? He said it's hidden in plain sight, overlooked, the obvious. What else? We have a main female. So she knows who the main female is. She knows that it was ritualistic, allegedly, and that it was an inside job. What else does she know? That they set a trap? That there will be a civil suit based on bias? That there's an ongoing investigation, and that she was sworn to secrecy. Says birds of a feather, locked together. We have liquid courage. Okay, so something about the drinking. Suitcases here again. We have karma is real. So she's letting nature take its course. Broken silent statement issued in press conference. So at some point she may say something. It feels like one person just needs to be strong enough to come forward. And once that person comes forward, everybody else comes forward. You can't knock everybody off. And that's the thing. We have to stop being afraid of people. They don't have the power. The power is in the majority. It's not about money. It's about who is brave enough to come forward. And if that were my friend, I would be coming forward. I'm sorry. I would not let that happen to my friend and not say anything. Because the reality is they could do the same thing to you even if you don't tell. Nolan hadn't told on anyone. And they did it to him. So what's the difference? What is the difference? All right, guys. Comment, subscribe, like. I'll see you in the next one.